Dear listeners, welcome to this new episode of our Academy for Football Culture. My name is Marnix Beyen. I'm a political historian, and from the next academic year onwards, I will be teaching a course on the history of sport and politics. Since many years, together with a number of colleagues, I also teach a course on the political history of the Balkans to our master students, whom we take on a study trip to Bosnia and Herzegovina every 2 years. That country is playing its second match of this World Cup today. It had been since 2014 that they had last qualified. The intense emotions generated by their qualification for this tournament went far beyond football. Reaching the World Cup felt like a small step towards healing the exceptionally deep wounds inflicted on the country by the war of the 1990s. The extent to which that war remains present was already evident before the legendary playoff match against Italy on the 31st of March. The team's 40-year-old captain, Edin Dzeko, called on supporters to show respect for Italy, as the Azzurri had been the first team to come and play a match in Bosnia after the war. Right at the end of the match, the decisive penalty was scored by Esmir Bajraktarevic, whose parents had escaped from Srebrenica in 1995, shortly before more than 8,000 men were murdered there by the Bosnian Serb army. They fled to Switzerland, the country Bosnia and Herzegovina are facing today. From there, they moved to the United States in 2001, where Esmir was born in 2004. He grew up as a citizen of the United States and was even called up at one point for the United States national team. Somehow, he will play at this tournament home games, therefore. However, when the Bosnian Football Federation offered Esmir a passport and a place in the Bosnian national team, he chose the country to which he had always remained deeply emotionally attached. Following Bajraktarevic's goal, Emil Suljagic, the controversial director of the Srebrenica Memorial Center, wrote on X, and I quote, "There was a plan that this boy would never be born, that my children would never be born, that none of our children would ever be born. Their laughter is our greatest revenge." The victory had touched an exceptionally deep nerve, so much is obvious. The extent to which the war remains present in contemporary Bosnian football culture is evident not only during national team matches, but also in the domestic league. During our study trips, we visit the stadium of Želječnikar Sarajevo, commonly named Željo. We do so not only because it is the favorite club of our host there, the both charming and erudite medieval historian Emil Filipovic, but also because the traces of the war remain particularly visible in the culture of this club. The club's stadium is located in the Grbavica district, which was occupied by the Bosnian Serb army early during the siege of Sarajevo, which lasted more than 1,400 days. On the first day of that siege, 5 April 1992, a match between Željo and a team from Belgrade had been scheduled, but it was cancelled half an hour before kickoff because of shelling nearby. Just over a month later, part of the stadium was destroyed, and for the following years it remained on the front line. Not far from the stadium lived Mustafa Čizmić, who had enjoyed some success during the 1980s with his musical group Bolero. During the siege, he was forced to cross the Miljacka River, where he joined the Bosnian armed forces. There, in 1993, he wrote and composed the song Grbavica. In it, he described the suffering of the district, this open wound, as he called it, but also expressed his determination to return. "And then I look at Željo Stadium," he wrote, "and I see your pride. I would give my life, but I will not give you up, for you are my life." Čizmić sent the song to Mladen Vojicic, better known as Tifa, who had achieved both fame and notoriety in the 1980s as a singer of Bijelo Dugme, Yugoslavia's most popular rock band, whose best-known member was Goran Bregovic. Čizmić persuaded Tifa to record the song. Tifa's performance of Grbavica at one of the first major concerts in Sarajevo after the siege was an intensely emotional event. The video can still be found on YouTube. For those who do not understand the lyrics, the song may sound like typical Jugo kitsch, but for the residents of Grbavica, and especially for Željo supporters, it became an emotional anthem. At every home match until today, an instrumental version is played over the loudspeakers while the supporters sing along at the top of their voices. At one point, the music is cut, leaving only the fans singing. That goosebump-inducing moment sounds something like this. This is not the only way in which memories of the war remain present in and around Željo Stadium. Since May 2023, the street on which the stadium stands has been named after Ivica Osim, and a large photograph of this legendary player and manager hangs above the entrance. Osim was a true product of Željo, where he played throughout the 1960s, while also being a member of the Yugoslav national team that lost the 1968 European Championship final to, yes, Italy. After some stays at foreign clubs, Osim returned to Željo in 1978 and remained manager until 1986. He was then appointed head coach of the Yugoslav national team, a position he held until 1992. More than for his achievements as a player and a coach, Osim is remembered today for the manner in which he resigned from that final role. Yugoslavia had qualified for the European Championship that year, but 1 month before the tournament began, he stepped down. Bosnia had declared independence at the beginning of April, and Yugoslav authorities under Slobodan Milosevic had responded with large-scale violence. The siege of Sarajevo, which started, as I said before, on the 5th of April 1992, formed part of that campaign. Osim's own family in Sarajevo was threatened by the violence. "My country does not deserve to play in the European Championship," Osim said at a press conference announcing his resignation. "On the scale of human suffering, I cannot reconcile what is happening at home with my position as coach of the national team." He concluded with words that can still be read on a mural near the stadium. And I quote again, "I am leaving, and that is that. The only thing I can do for this city is remind people that I was born in Sarajevo and that you know what is happening there." The connection between Željo and the war, however, is not limited to these deeply cherished memories. The club itself has also undergone a profound transformation. It was founded in 1921 as a club for railway workers where ethnic or religious background was of no importance. Ivica Osim himself was the son of a Slovenian railway worker who had moved to Sarajevo and married a woman of Polish-Czech origin. Even at the outbreak of the war, Željo had retained this multi-ethnic character. Mustafa Čizmić, who wrote Grbavica, is a Bosnian Muslim, or Bosniak as we say, but Tifa, who recorded and popularized the song, has a Serbian father and a Croatian mother. Even today, the club continues to cherish that multi-ethnic heritage, just as Sarajevo itself does. At the same time, Željo now identifies very strongly with the independent Bosnian state. The blue and yellow of the Bosnian flag are omnipresent in the club's stands, and attentive observers will also recognize the golden lilies that adorned the official flag of Bosnia and Herzegovina between 1992 and 1998. In the reality of contemporary Bosnia, however, the official blue and yellow colors, and especially the lilies, are embraced primarily by Bosnian Muslims. Among Bosnian Croats and Bosnian Serbs, by contrast, there remain strong political forces that reject these official Bosnian symbols and instead favor blue, white, and red, in the Croatian case, combined with the red and white checkerboard pattern that will also be very visible in this World Cup. The demographic reality of present-day Sarajevo is also one in which Bosniaks constitute virtually the entire population. As a result, Željo has, almost against its will, become an overwhelmingly Bosniak club. Anyone traveling a few kilometers south and crossing into Republika Srpska, the Serb Republic, within Bosnia-Herzegovina, will no longer encounter references to Željo in the new city of Istočno Sarajevo, but rather to the Serbian club Slavia Sarajevo, sometimes close to murals depicting Ratko Mladic, the commander of the Bosnian Serb army, who was among those responsible for the genocide in Srebrenica. This naturally raises the question, what is the relationship between the national team competing at this World Cup, the Bosnian nation, and Bosnia's ethno-religious communities? Is it possible to form a genuine national team when only one ethno-religious community fully identifies with the nation-state, and when significant forces within the other groups still deny the legitimacy of that state's existence? The majority of the players, in any case, are Bosniaks, and it is also clear that enthusiasm for World Cup qualification is found almost exclusively among the Bosniak population. During the penalty shootout against Italy, several players were seen praying in an Islamic manner, while chants of Allahu Akbar apparently rang out from the stands. Yet one member of the coaching staff also held a Catholic rosary in his hand, and the team's sole Bosnian Serb player, Jovan Lukic, was seen making the sign of the cross. The team's coach, Sergej Barbares, has parents and grandparents from all three ethno-religious communities. The team taking the field against Switzerland today, therefore, cannot simply be reduced to a Bosniak team. The healing effect I referred to earlier in this talk, however, applies only to the Bosniak community, not to the Bosnian nation as a whole. The fact that none other than the Bosnian Serb Lukic helped Bosnia secure a widely celebrated draw last week with his goal against Canada is unlikely to change that state of affairs. Some members of the Bosnian Serb community accused Lukic of being a traitor. The moving letter that Ivan Đeko had written to the children of Bosnia on the eve of that match thus seems not to have been equally well read by everyone. The last words of this podcast are nonetheless for this great icon of Bosnian football, who, by the way, is also a product of Željo. "I'm playing for my people," thus Đeko concluded his long letter in which he had also looked back on the siege of Sarajevo. "I'm playing for the boys and girls in the streets of Sarajevo. I'm playing for all the different cultures and religions that make our country so beautiful, even if some people are still trying to break us apart. They will never succeed. Not because of me, not because of the adults. We never learn. It's because of you kids. You never change. So do me one final favor, okay? Whether you live in Sarajevo or Rome or St. Louis, whether you are Muslim or Jewish or Catholic or Orthodox, never forget where you came from. You are Bosnian. The world is at your feet." Thus spoke Đeko. Now the match.
Universiteit Antwerpen. Bepaal mee de toekomst.